So welcome everyone. We're really excited to be putting on this event today. We have a really exciting and engaging conversation planned a little bit later on around navigating your venture in a virtual accelerator. Since the world had shut down in March of 2020, MassChallenge has been running a virtual accelerator program, actually several, over the past year and a half. And we've derived a lot of learnings from it, and we have noted quite a few of the benefits of a virtual accelerator, as well as some of the downfalls. So we're joined today with a really engaging panel of alumni who have gone through the MassChallenge program virtually, but have also engaged in either in-person MassChallenge programs or in other accelerator grant or incubator programs outside of the MassChallenge program that are excited to share with you just a bit about what they've learned. We know that trying to grow your venture in a virtual world always comes with its own challenges. So we're here to just explore that today. If you have questions throughout it, feel free to put it in the Q&A. We'll have a time for questions at the end, but we'll also be monitoring that throughout the time. Marissa, do you want to move to the next one? Great. So as several of you likely know, we are putting this on as part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. We are excited to be a part of this week. Innovation is at the root of what we do here at MassChallenge as a startup accelerator program. MassChallenge equips bold entrepreneurs to disrupt the status quo and create meaningful global change. We do have a no equity community-powered accelerator model that we seek to democratize entrepreneurship and bring entrepreneurs the resources, expertise, and network that they need to launch their businesses. We are funded by mission-aligned philanthropists, governments, corporations, and academic institutions to do this. Many of them are listed here. You can see just a handful of names that we work with to really accelerate our early stage programs. We believe that an accelerator program is nothing without the ecosystem that supports it. So these are just some of the partners that help back our programs and support startups in our programs. We also have opportunities for anyone out there who is interested in being a MassChallenge expert. These are folks who will volunteer their time to help our startup succeed. We are actively looking for business experts, industry leaders, former, current, successful entrepreneurs to join this network to help us build up that ecosystem. The link is in the chat there for Marissa if you are interested. But we're always recruiting experts for our early stage programs, our later stage programs, and some of our specialty programs as well. So if there is an interest in there, feel free to go and sign up. We also are a nonprofit. So if you feel like you want to contribute to the MassChallenge ecosystem that we are building, there are a number of ways to do that. As a nonprofit, we do accept donations. We also, you saw before on our list, our wonderful partner organizations. And if you or someone that you know is interested in partnering with MassChallenge, there are ways to do that. You can reach out to myself or Marissa if there's any interest. Our emails are written there, and we can also put those in the chat later. Oh, Marissa's already putting it in the chat. Perfect. And enough of me, because I am not why any of you are here. The reason that we're here is for our really engaging panel discussion that we will have. So I'd love to welcome Grace Rodriguez, who is the CEO and Executive Director of ImpactHub Houston, who will be moderating the discussion with all of our wonderful alumni who are joined by us today. Grace, I'll pass it off to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Madison. And you are part of the reason I'm here. So, as Madison said, I'm Grace Rodriguez, Executive Director and co-founder of ImpactHub Houston. We are an impact innovation incubator, and we partner really closely with MassChallenge Texas. We're very honored to be a part of the startup development ecosystem with them here. And we work on supporting entrepreneurs really at the ideation stage and help them prepare, hopefully, to apply successfully to get into a MassChallenge program later on. And so quickly, I want to kick it off to the other panelists to introduce themselves. Let's start with Samantha.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having Re3D today. So for context, I'm Samantha Snabs, and I'm the co-founder and catalyst for Re3D. We make large, affordable, and industrial 3D printers. We're now in 60 countries, and thanks to the support of the community, including MassChallenge, we've been able to modify our filament-based printers so they can print with flake or pellets, which gives you 3 ways to print with virgin materials or directly from plastic trash.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Next, we have Pierre.
Hi, I'm Pierre Lipton. I'm the co-founder and COO of 1440 Media. We are a knowledge company that's best known for a daily email newsletter, kind of covering all the verticals from sports to culture to science to business to politics and everything in between. We have 1 million+ subscribers, and we are really excited to be here today. So thanks so much.
That is incredible, Pierre. And then next, let's have Nicole introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Bishop. I'm founder and CEO of Cortolio, the Insight Cloud for R&D. We found that 99.99% of the scientific research that's published each year goes unread, leading to misdiagnosis, misdirection of funding, and missed opportunities. So we generate research leads in real time from the millions of scientific documents that researchers produce. And we have generated leads that have led to over 200 drugs that have been in clinical trials for COVID-19, which was recognized by the World Health Organization in partnership with the World Economic Forum.
Wow, that is incredible work, Nicole. You all are actually doing really incredible work. I would love to learn, let's just dive really deep into the conversation now. I'd love to learn how you learned about MassChallenge and what inspired you to become part of the program. Pierre, let's start with you.
Yeah, it was really, frankly, dumb luck on my end. So I found myself about a year ago working in the same office as a MassChallenge alum called Pangea App. They were from the class of 2018, I believe. In the office next to me was another MassChallenge alum, and in the office on the other side of me was another MassChallenge alum. So I found myself in this incredible community of really successful startups in the Rhode Island area who were loving what they were doing, really making roads in funding and in audience and in team growth, and also just had nothing but good things to say about MassChallenge. So being like embedded in this community and having so many amazing MassChallenge alums just around me at all times was made it almost feel like a no-brainer to apply, and we were lucky enough to be admitted.
Well, that was very serendipitous. Was there a reason why you chose MassChallenge versus any other accelerators?
Yeah, I mean the zero equity model is a fantastic model in my opinion, and it makes it very startup friendly. But also just seeing the success that it had driven for the startups that I was so familiar with it made it just feel very, very natural for us.
And thank you for sharing that, Pierre. And Samantha, you've participated in both the in-person Austin program and the virtual Boston program. What differences do you see between them, and what made you decide to go back to MassChallenge?
Yeah, like Pierre, I'd followed MassChallenge for a while. We were in another program called Unreasonable Impact, and the startups that we admired, many of the startups we admired the most had gotten their boost from MassChallenge and helped them figure out, how to position themselves as a socially driven company, but as well as a profitable company. So with that in mind, I was really keen to have that honor to grow alongside the MassChallenge community. And I think we were the first cohort in Texas that stood up at that time. So I'd seen the announcement that it was going to be local. And at that time, we had just made the very first prototype of a printer that can print from waste. And we had won a $1 million prize plus a National Science Foundation award. And so we were at this point, hardware is a step function sometimes. Where we were stepping up to the next level, and we had made the commitment we were going to provide healthcare to our team. We weren't sure how to do that. We had some legal considerations, and also we needed some guidance in how strategically we would position ourselves in our market with this new platform. So we participated in Texas physically, and it was great. One of the sponsors was TriNet, which is a PEO, and they had given a lecture in one of the very first days on what a PEO was and healthcare options to a team. And they were very gracious and presented everyone equally. And it was through them we ended up selecting TriNet long term, but we now were able to provide 100% healthcare coverage to our team. That was a huge win. leverage some of the other partnership relationships. And unfortunately, I think our technology was still pretty nascent, and we had invested in an ecosystem, or we had chosen Austin because it was local, but a number of like the judges and the mentors were already within our peer group. And so we recognized that to really leverage everything that MassChallenge has to offer, it would be beneficial to us as our technology matured and was in more markets to participate in the MassChallenge ecosystem that's outside of our own peer group. And we also learned, just being one of the few hardware ducks in that first cohort, that a lot of the deep tech and hardware technology was in the East Coast ecosystem, and we weren't aware of that until we participated. So we aggressively petitioned to get a waiver to do the second victory lap, and that was mind-blowing for us. It was there that we formed a relationship with Autodesk, and we're now Autodesk residents. We'll be opening up a Boston presence in January, which we're really excited about, and to really build new peers and communities that otherwise we may not have had access to from Austin.
Wow, it's really great to know that like the depth of expertise within MassChallenge and then the breadth of their network was really helpful to you, Samantha. Nicole, did you see the similar kind of experience? I understand you were also part of multiple accelerators. What was your experience like with going through that? Oh no, I think Nicole might have some technical difficulties. Let's see. Pause a moment. Hopefully she'll be able to get back on. Oh, we had you for a second, but then you went back on mute.
My apologies. I did have some technical difficulties. Yeah, so, speaking to Pierre as well, in regards to the network, we got our start out of the MIT Global Entrepreneurship Program and came in contact with really amazing people in the ecosystem of MassChallenge. And we wanted to tap into that ecosystem and build our network. And, speaking to the other accelerators that we've been in, that's what I've looked at from a strategic standpoint. How can we build our network in different areas? So we looked at things like IndieBio, which is one of the accelerators that we were into, did tap into the biotech world with MassChallenge. Definitely Boston having a really great biomedical hub as well, but also sort of general expertise that we can tap in across business and tech. So that's what we look to with MassChallenge, and it's been a really amazing experience thus far.
Nicole, you mentioned building your network. Through a lot of the research that we've done, we found that networks has been one of the biggest challenges, especially for women and minority entrepreneurs. How were you able to tap into the MassChallenge network to strengthen your own? I guess this is both for you, Nicole, and for Samantha.
Yeah, that's a very, very valid point. When I came into the MIT Global Entrepreneurship ecosystem, it became so much more clear how, being part of this network was so advantageous, and what I was missing and other women and people of color were missing by not being in these communities. So I have encouraged as many people as I can to, check out MassChallenge, check out the programs that are out there to build out these networks. And so what I've looked to is the mentorship in these networks is just next level. You're speaking with executives, you're speaking with people, decision makers, and people that can really help you guide your venture and make better decisions and expose you to knowledge that you wouldn't otherwise have if you weren't part of such an amazing ecosystem that MassChallenge provides. So it's been really advantageous for us, and definitely targets and helps with those disparities when it comes to women and minorities as well.
Samantha, do you have anything to add on that? I know you successfully raised a round, and sometimes people will advise startups go friends and family first, but I'm wondering how the growing your network has helped you with finding those friends to help invest in your startup.
Yeah, we actually haven't raised, but we have shamelessly hustled through the global community for non-dilutive resources and grants. And I would caveat and say, especially when you are either getting a directly funded strategic opportunity to do a pilot, that's a result of a network, right, and business capture. And for grants, for the more competitive ones, and especially in deep tech, you have to have letters of support. And so to get that really stellar letter of support from someone that says, if funded, I need this technology, also requires, having a deep network and relationships to get, a vice president of, a Fortune 50 to sign off. And that's where MassChallenge, for those of us in hardware, can be exceptionally relevant. I don't want to say this is a female thing. I've heard people say that. I would say it's something I struggle with. It can be a little daunting when you first get started, and you're also on the fringes and doing things differently, to figure out how to connect with people outside of your network, to get those letters of support, to form those relationships, to do a funded strategic rollout, and to figure out how to bid or confidently present what you think is, your baby. And so that's where MassChallenge and the mentorship can be really, really phenomenal, and helping you feel comfortable having a seat at the boardroom. And I don't know if that's a female thing. I've heard that, but I think it's definitely helped me mature in developing that confidence.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for the correction and addition. It's definitely, we've seen across the board how important bootstrapping and growth in revenue and pilots has been to a lot of startups. And Pierre, as the non-female in our group, how has the experience been for you with growing your network and tapping into MassChallenge's ecosystem?
Yeah, it's been nothing but wonderful on our end, on my team's end. It's like hard to think of the number of people I could shout out here, but we were able to, first of all, and to the points of the other panelists, we were able to meet incredible mentors, accessing people in these really high positions who have either done the startup thing and founded their own company and really seen a lot of success and collected expertise. And then just being able to talk to them on a Tuesday afternoon is really incredible. But also, what I think, and I might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but the access to these pod meetups that we had, I believe, starting this year, maybe it was last year, but meeting companies and founders from across the U.S., across the world, across industries, it was really incredible in getting to know people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, in finding kind of rhyming themes to business that you wouldn't realize between like hardware and media. It's not something that you generally see or that you generally have access to, but being able to talk to all these people and almost being forced to drink from the fire hose, I think is an incredible experience.
Thanks, Pierre. That's actually the perfect segue, because my next question was, what are the benefits of participating in a virtual accelerator, especially since we're talking about connection now? How has it been different during the pandemic and in a virtual accelerator versus an in-person accelerator program?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the breaking down of geographic barriers is, I would say, a silver lining to everyone going on Zoom the past year and a half. It means that we can talk to people who we wouldn't have otherwise, and it means that accelerators like MassChallenge really opened up geographically. I'm lucky enough to live in a city that has a MassChallenge Accelerator in Rhode Island, or in Providence, the Rhode Island Accelerator. But if I were based in Chicago, like my co-founder is, we wouldn't have been able to take part previously. So being able to access MassChallenge from anywhere over Zoom and meet startups who are maybe in underrepresented geographies is just like a really awesome thing, both for myself and for others who took part, I think.
Thank you. And Samantha and Nicole, were there any strategies that you might have leveraged to make sure that you got the most out of a virtual program versus an in-person one?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd speak to that. I've actually experienced being in multiple accelerators and programs at the same time in 2018, and it required the physical presence. So I'd say with the virtual element, that really allowed us to. We actually were going through Techstars at the same time that we've been in MassChallenge. So both demanding, both very fruitful when you put that attention and time in. But I'd say the virtual element really better facilitated our ability to absorb as much as possible, engage with mentors, as well as the content being recorded, because it really needs to be, being able to if it's 12 a.m. and I have a thought about, a session, I can go back and rewatch and take my notes and what have you. So the virtual element has been really opened things up, and I definitely agree with Pierre in regards to, opening things up to underrepresented founders, as well as, breaking down those geographical barriers has been amazing to see, because I've engaged with people that I obviously otherwise wouldn't be able to, just by hanging out and chatting on Zoom. So it's been a really amazing experience.
Samantha, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I would say, I think for us, admittedly, I think both MassChallenge, that first time it went virtual during COVID, and we all had our COVID drama, and our company doing a virtual accelerator for the first time was still getting our feet wet. We have a lot of lessons learned. We talk about candidly on how maybe we could have better leveraged that opportunity in the virtual format. I think there was also the unknown of like, maybe things would change and we would get to physically connect. So there was a little bit of deference on our end. I would say, if you're going to do a virtual accelerator, you really need to commit upfront mentally. We just had a virtual boot camp in Singapore for 5 days, and sometimes it can be tough to prioritize all the events because you have all your other stuff going on. So if you're going to do the virtual experience, you really do need to treat it like you would an in-person experience and carve out time and to have discipline, not only for attending the sessions, whether you listen to them real time or the recordings, but also carving out space to really network, and to cultivate relationships and to plan time for follow-up. I think we could have done a better job with that. But that being said, the ability to connect with startups, as the other panelists have shared, across geographies is really phenomenal. And what's unique about MassChallenge, at least in our virtual cohort, is and I believe that's the same now, correct me if I'm wrong, is they've kind of dropped all walls. So between programs, you can network. So that was emerging as we participated, but I think there's a lot of value in that. So particularly for like those companies that are into defense or space, they may be in another program, but they still have the reach into the resources of the other, the program running in parallel. And I just think that's incredibly unique and really special.
Speaking of time, do you have any tips on how to manage your time or lessons learned from that time management?
Yeah. In our instance, I would say, it's easy to say, okay, same with virtual church, I'll listen to it on the day and the time in the evening that works out for me or while I'm running. But then you're not as fully present. So I think it's just important, however you decide that you're going to consume that information, that you're not multitasking, and you're at a point in your day and your schedule where you can just really appreciate everything that's being offered to you.
Pierre, did you have any tips on how you manage your time and took advantage of some of the resources of MassChallenge?
Yeah, I think like 70% of being an entrepreneur is time management. So it's like really, really important to put in, or you get out what you put in, is I guess how I would concisely say that. Yeah, we I guess the one thing that we tried to do most was have allotted times where we met with mentors, just creating like a semi-rigid schedule that it kind of kept me honest in a number of ways. So I would set up bi-weekly 1 hour or half hour meetings with the mentors that we worked with, and it meant that like there was a deliverable, I sure better have it ready by the bi-weekly meeting. If there was something to discuss about, there was a time to speak about it already. And if there was nothing to talk about, we could postpone the meeting. So just making sure that you don't let things sit on ice too long, and you don't miss meetings, you don't postpone too much. It's just like really, really important, I think, in cultivating and growing these relationships, and also getting a lot of value out of an incredibly like rigorous and high intensity program.
How did you source your mentors?
Yeah, there's an awesome mentor portal through MassChallenge where they're like brief bios on, I don't know how many people, probably 500 mentors, give or take. I could be way off there. It's throwing a number at the wall. But tons of incredibly experienced and wonderful humans. And I would just search for, I think there were like 10 keywords that I was really interested in looking for, like hiring and finance and growth and sales. And I would just search for those keywords within the directory and I had a short list of like 50 or so mentors, and I set up time to meet all of them to begin with. And then we eventually landed on the ones that had the most frictionless connection to 1440. And then we were able to, or we were lucky enough that many of them decided to continue working with us. And it really made for a really strong base of highly tailored mentors for the business.
I think we
That's
did something
awesome.
similar. There was like a huge spreadsheet, and you actually have to compete to have the mentor want to match with you. It's a little bit like, or I don't know if it's the same way, like Bumble. And we like, there were some mentors we wanted so bad. So we like shamelessly were doing like pre-work on LinkedIn and trying to win them over. But the mentor network is just, it's unprecedented compared to other accelerators, the amount of qualified individuals that can really invest in you.
And who care, right? Who care to invest in you too. Nicole, do you have any other tips on sourcing mentors?
Yeah, for sure. What we did is we looked at the gaps that we felt we had from an advisory standpoint. And so we had different areas we looked at from, essentially, I'm all about making connections and how they splinter out. So we looked at from a science perspective, what inroads can we make into the bioscience hub that's in Boston and the MassChallenge network overall. And then we looked from a tech and business standpoint. So we looked at them and essentially split them up to verticals, if you will, so that we can fill those gaps and surround ourselves with mentors that had perspectives that would help us advance and have new knowledge in those different areas. So that's how we approached finding mentors.
Thank you. It's interesting for our own organization, we have separate buckets of mentors also. So there's our formal board, but we also have an advisory group and we have thought partners, people that we just call on to help us think through things that don't necessarily expect us to call on them frequently. So this is great. Nicole, earlier you mentioned the video recordings. How did you utilize the digital curriculum?
Yeah, so what we did is essentially we, worked to, my apologies for the sound there in the back, worked to attend as many sessions as is possible. The virtual components allowed us to multitask with intention. That's really important to have intention. But essentially going back, that was something that I found really valuable, is being able to go back. If it was the case that, I had a business call and there was a really great session that I wanted to attend, I knew that I can always go have that resource. And I looked at it as essentially a digital library to be able to tap in and still to this day to be able to tap in and go back. And so that's how we approached it. Looking at it as this really great library to tap into that also allowed us to take care of business at the same time.
Pierre, Samantha, do you have more to add on the digital curriculum library?
I can go. Sorry. Yeah, I think the one thing we probably didn't put enough work into, or if I had to stack rank it, the thing that we put the least, or we could have put more work into, would have been the digital curriculum. We attended as many as we could, but I think we didn't do a good job of going back to the archive of recordings. It's so readily available. It would have been so easy for us to do, and I think we dropped the ball. I think we only went back to one or two of them, but we did attend a lot of them in live time. We're on Eastern time, which is generally really like conducive to attending live. But they were like always an incredible panel of experts, or an incredible singular expert who shared a lot about emotional intelligence or hiring or whatever it was you're looking for. There was an option in one of the curriculum events.
Yeah, I would say we carry the same guilt with 3D, but are very thankful to have that resource available.
I think one of the things that's great to go back to is, especially when you add new team members or you have interns, to have them just refresh on some of the education that has been created before. And then that way it helps bring them up to speed much more quickly sometimes. Are there any other lessons that you might have learned along the way while being part of the program? Samantha, I mean, Pierre, you talked about taking advantage of the curriculum, but you've also talked about time management and all these other things. Let's start with Samantha. Were there other lessons that you've learned along the way as being part of this virtual accelerator?
Yeah, I would say I think I just so wanted Re3D to be part of the MassChallenge community that initially, and this is recorded, so it's unfortunate, but it's honest. Initially, when we heard that Austin was opening up, we were like, we knew MassChallenge was super competitive, and I was really nervous we wouldn't make it. I knew some of the metrics are on your IP in the initial intake, and we're open source, so we go into the gate a little low on that, and really aren't motivated by investment at this point because they've been able to bootstrap, and we were struggling with how to frame that. So I felt like we would have a low score in the very competitive down select to be in a program. So we did Austin thinking it might be easier because it'd be the first year and we could be the guinea pigs. And I think we kind of played it the same way with Boston. We're like, it's a pandemic. There's a lot of movement right now. Maybe this is our chance to get in with Boston. But I think a better way to go about it is to really think about the location. Like, we're learning a lot. We're continuing to appreciate the nuances of each program based on where they are in the communities that are around them, both geographically as well as in terms of where they really excel in different centers of excellence in practice. So, for example, in Boston, as Nicole pointed out, there's a vibrant life science community. So that's a huge opportunity for life science companies. So I would say, I wish that we had thought more about the location, the culture, the community, and the partners, not just trying to get our foot in the door because we didn't feel like we might be good enough. And so we've had the honor now of mentoring a few companies that have gone and are now MassChallenge alums. I always just encourage them to really think through which program can add the most value to their company.
How about you, Nicole? Any lessons and hacks, accelerator hacks you'd like to share?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely strategy is I would say really important. We took that standpoint, wanting to make sure that we tapped into the best possible network. Of course, we were right there, watching the tweets come in as the MassChallenge applications went down and the site went down and had to be extended. So we knew the demand. And what we did is we positioned ourselves for 2 programs for Rhode Island and the Boston Center program, so that we would at least be in the area of the folks that we wanted to target and have that visibility and awareness about what we were doing, because we can essentially see that could build additional connections. Additionally, we really enjoyed the pods. We were in the enterprise pod, and that was really valuable because we have a B2B product, but we're implementing a B2C2B strategy. And we found it really valuable to have these perspectives of how to sell enterprises. And that was, essentially sort of weekly engagement with other founders working on those very same issues and the different sales cycles and things like that. So that was really, really valuable. So I think that, there are opportunities as well to look at different pods, if you will, be it, more so around space and things like that. We actually took part in a couple of those as well, because our client base, we looked at different sessions that involved our client base, and we were able to absorb from there. So keeping an eye out on the calendar, and something might not appear as, oh, this is definitely related to me, but you can definitely absorb something from it. So that's the way we approach, and those are a couple of hacks that we had in place.
Thank you. And Pierre, you mentioned pods earlier too. Can you describe what they are and then tell us how you leverage them?
Sure, yeah. I might be totally butchering this, so forgive me, but they're a collection of startups taking part in any MassChallenge cohort that's live at the moment. And they kind of cross all geography and industry. I'm not sure I noticed any common thread, with the exception of to Nicole's point, the specialized pods in space and enterprise. They were basically just across industry, across geography, across program, just founders who wanted to learn and network with each other. So we actually ended up talking a lot within the pods about personal wins, professional wins, like how we were making the most of MassChallenge. A lot of the conversation today was somewhat similar to what we talked about in pods sometimes, and like how we were preparing for the final judging rounds, that kind of thing. So they were really just an awesome way of meeting people doing really similar things to what we were doing, even if they weren't in the media industry. It was very very cross vertical. Yeah, really awesome program that we still keep in touch with a couple of the members of our pod.
Thank you. And Samantha, how did you also leverage pods or any other user affinity groups?
Yeah, I believe that was just standing up during the virtual cohort that we did in 2020. Christian Melton was doing a great job for anyone that had like a federal or a defense nexus. My understanding is it's evolved a little bit in the last year. Again, we probably, because I think it was also new and we're taking it in, we could have done a better job. I think for us, that's where internally we felt like if we were in person, we would have stood out more in forming relationships, because our product is so physical, and we could have done live demonstrations with a cohort online. At that time, it was just forming. I think we were all competing for the same warm intros with the strategics that we're also figuring out how that worked. But for the companies that we've mentored and had touch with, they've really excelled, as the panelists have shared, with the pod construct. And we recently were in an alumni panel with MassChallenge to think through how we best engage as members of the alumni community. And my understanding is there's opportunities now for us to intersect and for it to be more of an enduring thing.
Speaking of the benefit of having that in person for a product-based startup, how did you have to tailor your pitch for a virtual accelerator program?
Yeah, I think that's where I could do better, but it definitely was really stretching and helped us evolve so that we actually much of the content that we present now in virtual boardroom discussions as a result of the MassChallenge mentorship. So that was really timely. But yeah, I think during the program we were really struggling, and that's why the mentorship was so critical for us as the COVID is still ensuing and we're not doing if hardly any trade shows. The other thing that we learned as we were pivoting our in-person engagement from meetups, which you've had the chance to witness, and workshops and tours, is we had to pivot that all online once we realized that this wasn't a temporary thing. And so it was really helpful with the mentors to give them an opportunity to experience some of that early content, to give feedback and to help shape how we move forward. So you notice on one of the slides towards the end of this deck, we always conclude any experience with an invitation to experience a virtual tour with our teammate Charlotte and the community to get that live demo, and have developed some stories and aids too around applications. So after every curated conversation, we can follow up with something that is a little bit more personal and to the prospective client or partner. So those are just a few lessons learned we took away from the program, but we basically use the virtual experience as a way to pilot how we navigate the new normal.
Thank you. I really love the virtual tour of the space and like being able to see what you're doing and interacting with a live person. Nicole, was there anything that you did to adapt to a virtual pitch?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say that I'm very comfortable on the stage, and in prior accelerators and what have you. There's a certain energy that you get from being on that stage, and a certain presence you give to the stage. And so having to modify that a bit, I enjoyed that because I felt like it, essentially made me ready for anything, especially in this new normal or what have you. So, that was the primary thing when it came to pitch is just sort of, how do I present in a way for this medium, but at the same time, provide that same energy. And I also have engaged, I would say, in more intimate conversations as a result of the virtual world. Even with the MassChallenge event, being able to, hop on with, folks from the U.S. Patent Office and what have you, through those virtual meetings. Whereas in a physical presence, you might have to be concerned yourself with whether or not you just happen to walk into those people. So I'd say that was a huge advantage, being able to see who's attending and schedule those meetings and be very intentional about who you wanted to meet and make it happen.
Thank you. And Pierre, since you are a digital platform, was there anything that you had to tweak for virtual pitches?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough going into just the virtual world that our company has always been distributed. My co-founders are in Washington, D.C. and Chicago, so we've always talked over Zoom. I guess the only thing I'll contribute to here is I would say we lack the natural charisma on the stage that Nicole has. So we were able to kind of adjust to the Zoom world by, I don't know, maybe leaning on our slideshows a little more and trying to sound interesting and upbeat on pitches or on prospective investor calls, that kind of thing. So we were very, very fortunate in that sense that Zoom is almost our preferred medium, and I'm not sure we would have been so lucky as to win a prize had it been in person.
I love that. Speaking of prizes, 1440 was recently announced a prize winner for MC 2021. How will that prize money impact your next steps in growing your company? This is a question from the audience.
Awesome. Yeah, we were very, very fortunately awarded the Platinum Award this year, and we're planning on using it really to just grow the team and grow the audience. So our two biggest priorities this quarter and next quarter are hire across lines of business. So we're looking to hire a senior writer, some members of the growth team, and then maybe a salesperson or two. So the earnings or the winnings from MassChallenge will go towards that, and then kind of anything unused towards acquiring and retaining top talent will be using towards acquiring new subscribers. So we advertise on a number of channels, and the kind of the leftovers will be used to bring in more readership to the newsletter.
Awesome. So continuing your plans for world domination.
Exactly.
So looking forward, here's a question from William Sarkozy in the audience. As we look at a world that is resuming back to in-person or hybrid models, what considerations are you as early stage founders thinking of when you look towards future programs? Let's start with Samantha.
Yeah, and I would say this pertains to live events as well. I've said to pile on to Nicole's point, have a strategy for when in-person makes sense. Like we also do better on stage, I think, than in the virtual context, and we can have that one-on-one and show our physical product, and you could see a water bottle being ground up and being printed live. But it's a lot of lift to invest in person as well. And as Pierre said, 70% of our time is, or our responsibility in the startup is thinking through time management. So really have a plan for when that in-person engagement is really necessary to form those relationships or to close those deals or to meet with a customer real time or just, to show their success to an audience. And then be okay with continuing to adapt to the virtual environment and sharing your content that way when maybe it's less critical, and that'll afford you a little bit more space to focus on other company priorities.
And Nicole, how about you?
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with Samantha, around strategy. What events are you going to do? That's the way we're looking ahead is we've seen the power of being virtual, being able to, reach across, boundaries that were formerly in place, reach larger audiences and things like that. So, looking at when it's the right time to go ahead and be virtual and when it's the right time to be in person. And so that's what we've been looking ahead. And when we look at 2022 and think about, what events do we want to do, what makes the most sense is actually, I think I would say has forced us to really think about the ROI of the in-person events versus virtual. And we've seen what can get done virtually, inclusive of MassChallenge, and reaching out to people that we otherwise wouldn't meet. So really finding the balance in between. So yeah, we're looking forward to finding the balance, and looking forward to 2022 and seeing what it brings.
Thanks. And how about you, Pierre? Any considerations for future programs?
I can do nothing but echo Samantha and Nicole. Just time management, ROI on time, and prioritizing in person versus remote where applicable.
Can I also ask each of you to describe, what was your startup like when you were before going into MassChallenge, and what kind of milestones has MassChallenge helped you achieve? Let's start with Nicole this time.
Sure, thank you so much. I'd say, we were very much in the stage of figuring out exactly the best possible way to go to market. And we had just, come to the conclusion around the B2C to B strategy, and really wanted to, hone in on our sales strategy and figure out the best way to facilitate, what we had in place. And so I'd say that would be the top benefit that we saw via MassChallenge being in the enterprise pod was, this weekly reminder around, how do we create a sales strategy that speaks to now, but also, 1 year out from now. So that's what we focused in on. That was our intention with MassChallenge, to both build out our network in those verticals that I mentioned, but also just, to have, what do we want to get out of this is to have solid sales strategies so that we can be effective with our enterprise and outreach.
Thanks. And Samantha, how about you? Baseline
Yeah,
milestone.
oh, sorry. And as a quick go back, as I'm thinking about it, to the last question, one piece of advice we're trying to give ourselves internally that seems to be helpful is to not assume that COVID's over. And so we're just going ahead and taking the assumption that this is our reality and that any event could be canceled or to go virtual. So we always have that backup plan. And in our projections for like collateral, we're going to print for live events, or the investment we're going to make and prepping for events. So we don't, making sure that, we can get deposits back, and we don't lose our shirt on our marketing budget if we have to pivot it to go virtual. In terms of milestones, MassChallenge has been essential to our growth, as we had suspected when we advocated so hard to join not once but twice. In it, we now provide for 100% of healthcare for our team. We have a PEO, which has been essential in helping us navigate compliance when we have out-of-state teammates, as well as supporting us as we grow in Puerto Rico. So it's taken that pressure off of the occasional fines we would get for mucking up HR paperwork and employee retention in multiple states and territories, which has been a huge relief. And the onboarding process that goes alongside of that. We have QuickBooks Online now. Before, we were using spreadsheets, and our financials weren't always current, and now they are through the MassChallenge network. That we were able to connect with an accountant to help us pull compliance reports, which is essential now as we look at build-out scenarios and applying for economic incentives. We wouldn't have been prepared to do that. Our Boston presence is a direct result of MassChallenge Boston. We're so excited. We'll be having 1 or possibly 2 printers featured as part of the Autodesk tour in Boston, and we're already gaining so many efficiencies and continuing to grow our network through that community, which is a result of our mentorship. Our relationships with a number of our customers are stronger because of MassChallenge as we learn more about how they work. So my co-founder is a farmer from Iowa. I grew up in Detroit, and it was through MassChallenge that we were able to better position for strategic conversations and to have that boldness that we talked about previously. And it's essential to where we go from here in the COVID environment.
Thank you. And Pierre?
Yeah, we were, I'm trying to think through some of the metrics. I'm going to get a couple of these wrong, but we grew our audience from, I think, 750,000 to almost 1.1 million through the duration of MassChallenge, which was like a pretty meteoric rise that we'd never seen before. We were able to scale revenue, I believe, 40% over the course of the program, which was also really awesome. We refined positioning on paid social ads. We were we actually doubled the team size, which sounds impressive, but I think it went from 2 to 4, which is, I guess, a little less so. But that was also incredibly exciting, and in large part thanks to MassChallenge. But I would say like the most significant for us was actually refining our pitch. Like it was I would say maybe a B- C+ going into MassChallenge, and going out of it, thanks to just incredible work from our mentors specifically, we were able to get to a pitch that I'm like still incredibly happy with and proud of. So working on how you position the company to the world, I think, is a really important skill, and one that we wouldn't have been able to accomplish without MassChallenge.
Thanks, Pierre. And don't underestimate the significance of going from 2 to 4. That's co-founders to new hires, right? So that's a big step, because then all of the other things like Samantha was talking about as you're growing your team that you have to think about with HR and employment taxes and all of, and operationalizing stuff and making sure you're building the right culture. It's huge. So thank you for sharing that. So, now that you've met all of these milestones, what I'd love to learn from you all now is, what are your next steps now that you've completed the programs? There's a question from the audience that aligns with that. Do you plan to join any more accelerators in the future? Or, what's up next? Nicole?
Sure, thank you so much. So in regards to accelerators, we're a bit tapped out. We actually had said that we were tapped out, and then we saw MassChallenge and said, let's give it one more go. We've been through a few as over the course of our journey. We feel like we've collected a really great network around ourselves to focus on growing the company. And so that's what's up next for us. We've been had really great calls in from really great Fortune 500 companies around pilots. And so we're focused on that, as well as partnerships, upcoming partnerships that we'll be happy to announce in the coming weeks. And so we're really focused on those partnerships and the product and sales. So we absolutely credit our participation in Accelerators for our growth to this point, and so it's really valuable on a number of fronts. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. I'll go to Pierre next. What are your plans for the next steps?
Yeah, I mean, so our one of our biggest goals is to hit 2 million, then 5 million, then 10 million subscribers. It's just like continue to grow the audience, grow into our addressable market. But as far as accelerators go, I guess see where the wind takes us. We don't have any current plans, but if an opportunity like MassChallenge arises again, I would be hard pressed to say no to something like that.
Thanks. And Samantha, I also have an addition to that question of your next plans. What has it been like for you as an alumni of the different MassChallenge programs? And I know that you're giving back as a mentor and an expert to the community. What keeps you engaged?
Yeah, I think it's the community that we keep highlighting. That's what attracted all of us, and that's what sustains us, because it is just so enriching. There are some hidden opportunities that we like to market for MassChallenge as an alumni. There are you get exposed sometimes to additional opportunities to pitch or to connect with strategics and partners, and it's possible. Nicole and Pierre have dabbled in that as well. So we learned about what was called the Comic Competition through Ingram Micro. I didn't even know what Ingram Micro was, but we were a finalist in that. And I think it was I think we got second place. It was a $100,000 prize after MassChallenge Houston, and that led us to as a finalist, they flew us out to, I think it was Los Angeles, to a big convention they were having. We met with the CEO of Ingram Micro, who personally wrote a letter with his office for a match for a National Science Foundation award that brought in $150,000 to develop a new feature. So stay on the dashboard, learn about those opportunities, stay connected with the community. In terms of accelerators, interesting. I don't know if we would do a seed stage program necessarily. I hate to say never, because you're always humbled, but there are a number of opportunities now opening up with strategics, and especially in hardware and deep tech, who are basically using an accelerator format to teach you how to, onboard in their vendor system, or appeal to their strategic goals and to connect with the right people in their company to fund strategic pilots. That's something we're just starting to participate in, but I could see us doing a number of those programs going forward, because we are ready to demonstrate our technology within a company for potential scaling. opportunity.
That's awesome. So you're already ready to scale. I'm going to invite back Madison to lead us through the next couple of slides with opportunities to engage with some of the startups here and with closing remarks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Nicole. This was just a phenomenal, just a brief little look at what the life of an early stage and seed stage entrepreneur might look like in a virtual world. It's a new thing for, I think, everyone, but now that we're a year and a half into it, it's becoming more and more commonplace, and it's interesting to see where you all will go in this somewhat post kind of continuing pandemic world. We do want to give a few little plugs to the incredible founders and startups that you heard from today. So here are some ways that you can engage with RE3D. So Samantha has put on here some ways that you can follow them on social and join them for a 3D printing meeting, meetup, class, or tour. So we'll add those links in the chat as well, but we encourage you all, if you enjoyed what you heard and want to get more involved, to join those. I probably will, Samantha. And then I know we also have a plug for 1440. As Pierre mentioned, they are looking to grow their member base. So if you are interested in being an advertiser on those, you're welcome to do that. If you're interested in joining the newsletter list as well, you can join at thejoin1440.com and then reach out to Pierre if there's any other interests in connecting in general. And with that, I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. Those of you who joined virtually as attendees, those of you who will view the recording later on, I hope you found the conversation to be engaging and that you've learned a lot about what it takes to be a part of a virtual accelerator program in this world. Definitely a world that none of us thought we'd be in, but I think over the past year and a half, we've rolled with the punches, and coming out of this, it's brought into light new opportunities for global engagement. It's brought into just the overall way that we work in an accelerator and the way we innovate globally and can create meaningful change. So we're excited for the future. We're excited to have you all in our network, and thank you all for joining. And we can go ahead and close this out now. And if you have any questions too, anyone is welcome to email MassChallenge at newengland@masschallenge.org or texas@masschallenge.org. And we're always there to answer any questions or pass along questions to any of the panelists or Grace as our moderator as well. And if any of the panelists have a closing statement that they'd like to add, we welcome you to do that in these last few minutes.
Sure. If you are a 3D printing nerd and live in Texas or Puerto Rico and would like to fulfill any role in our team, we are hiring. Please don't be shy. But more importantly, if you're listening to this and you're considering MassChallenge, don't hesitate to reach out if you want feedback on your application. Be bold, and we look forward to seeing you become part of the Alumni Network.
And if anyone's interested in joining us in the revolution of research discovery, accelerating insight across rare diseases oncology, feel free to reach out, Nicole@cortolio.com. Happy to talk more.
Yeah, same here. Thanks everyone for attending. And if you're looking for a role in media, or if you want to advertise to 1.1 million subscribers, shoot me an email, pierre@join1440.com. Thank you everyone for attending.
And finally, if you want a thought partner for your idea, a solution, or even just a challenge, any one of the SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals that you're working to try to figure out a solution to, please feel free to reach out to both MassChallenge and to ImpactHub Houston. And you can reach me or our team at houston@impacthub.net. Thanks.